There was a woman in the town of Tyre in Syria, 50 k's north of Israel. And she lived in the time of Jesus, and she had a problem. Demons possessed her daughter. These evil powers had taken over her personality and made her miserable. They controlled her and they spread their misery to anyone who came near her. And her mother was desperate. Her daughter was just not like that. She was a bright, happy girl. But this cruel presence came into her and it robbed her vitality and was trying to destroy her. She had tried everything. Witch doctors, well, they just made her worse. And priests, well, they had no answers either. And then she heard gossip about a young man in Galilee, the northern province of Israel. He had a reputation for healing powers and delivering people from devils. And his fame was spreading throughout Syria also, and his name was Jesus. Crowds of Syrians were going into Galilee and lining up for his healing touch. And remarkably, he didn't seem to mind if they were Jews or not. He cast out spirits with a word. But how was she going to get help from this Jesus? I mean, how do you take a demon-possessed girl 50 kilometres on foot into foreign territory without the demons kicking up big time, especially if they know the reason for the journey is to get rid of them? And secondly, even if she did manage to get her there, how is she going to get the latest talk of the town to give her the help that she needs? When the local Jews saw she was a pagan from Syria, she had become the object of discrimination. Syrians have a long history as neighbours of Jews, and it's mostly bad. They once did have good relations with two of their kings, David and Solomon, and they helped make each other rich. Well, living on the coast as they did, the people of Tyre were sea traders, and they had a reputation as hard dealers. In Israel, they gained themselves the nickname of prostitute, because they exploited others and they could cut a deal with anyone. Ivory tusks and slaves from Africa, horses and chariots from Egypt, gold and precious stones and sheep and goats from Arabia, spices from India, and iron and spices from Greece. They traded everything. But their most damaging export to Israel was a princess called Jezebel, who married their king Ahab for political reasons. This Jezebel worshipped their god Baal. She spread Baal worship all over Israel. Well, this greatly offended their god, who had specifically commanded his people to worship him and him alone. Well, matters came to a head when Elijah, one of their prophets, had a showdown with 400 of her prophets, and he challenged them to call fire down from heaven. They failed, but he succeeded. And next thing, all 400 prophets of Baal lay as corpses down a valley. But the rot had set in, and idol worship kept flaring up all over Israel. Prophet after prophet denounced these practices as wicked, and Tyre became a password for wickedness and godless paganism. They prophesied that their God would punish the people from Tyre. They likened their king to the devil himself, whose heart was filled with pride, and he'd be brought down. The arrogance of Tyre reached a climax when their kingdom of Assyria became a superpower. They marched on northern Israel. They slaughtered, destroyed, deported most of their citizens. Well, that was 750 years ago. Assyria's reign was short-lived, and they were soon taken over by Babylon, and then they were taken over by the Persian Empire, and later Alexander the Great charged in and levelled them to the ground, just as Israel's prophet Ezekiel had predicted. They're called Syria now. Well, as you can guess, the response of the citizens of Israel was, "We told you so. Serves you right." Might only be 50 kilometres away, but with all this history, there's a big divide between the people of Tyre and Israel. No love's lost. Leaders keep up the old nicknames of prostitute and pagan. Now, you might be asking, what's all this got to do with a woman's daughter being possessed by devils? Well, quite a lot if you want help from a Jew whose services are in high demand. But she keeps on thinking about this Jesus, not because she got access to him, but because of his power. He casts out the demons out of his neighbours, and so she knows that he has the power over the forces that control her daughter. Look at her miserable behaviour. There's powers here, invisible powers, spirit powers at work here. This is more than just feeling bad. She knows her daughter too well for that. No doctor, no witch doctor, no professional has any idea how to change her. There's a power inside her that needs a greater power to defeat it. No human power can overcome the power controlling her girl, yet by all accounts, this Jesus can. That makes him a superpower of a different order, above the natural power of human beings and above the powers possessing her girl. Jesus is Lord. The thought is tantalizing, and she is desperate. Well, the woman heard that Jesus had a major dispute with Jewish religious leaders. The public were calling him Son of David or Messiah. The leaders disagreed. Jesus told them it would be more tolerable for Tyre and Sidon on the day of judgment than for them. Provocative talk, but Jesus doesn't care. It didn't do his cause among the Jews any good, but it certainly got the attention of the people of Tyre. One day at the market she heard that Jesus himself had come from Galilee to a home right near her in Tyre. Her heart starts racing at the prospect. Is he escaping from religious leaders? He's a refugee on our soil. Is he accessible? She finds out which house and she gets there fast. She's only shouting distance away. Her heart takes over. Her daughter needs help and she cries out, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me!" She doesn't care what anyone thinks. She needs help for her daughter. Jesus is in this house and he's got the power and authority to help. But is he willing to help? He seems to be here for a rest. She's got no claim on him, and so she pleads for mercy. She's got nothing to offer him. She's just a desperate foreign woman in need. "My daughter is suffering terribly from demon possession," she calls out. Her cries reach Jesus' ears, but also reach the ears of his 12 men, 12 bodyguards, protecting their master. Jesus doesn't answer her, but he takes advice from his men. "Send her away, for she keeps crying out after us." What will Jesus do? Listen to his team of men. It's 12 to 1 to send her away, like an annoying crow. But Jesus does hear her, and he invites her into his presence, past the barrier of his men, and next moment she finds herself kneeling before the one person in the world who can free her daughter. But getting his help is not going to be straightforward. He answers her, "I was only sent to the lost sheep of Israel." Well, this remark strikes one of her fears. Jews first, fair enough. She's got no answer to that one. But she's determined, and she begs him, "Lord, help me." All her thinking about this moment comes down to 3 words, Lord. She believes he is a power above human power and an authority above spirits. She knows deep inside that Jesus is Lord, and she's a common beggar. All she can plead is, "Help me." She knows he can, but is he willing to? Jesus speaks again. "It is not right and proper to take the children's bread and toss it to their puppy dogs," he says. Well, this might sound like another fob off, but she's strangely warmed when she hears these words. Children get their master's bread first. She's okay with that. The children of Israel got first offer of their master's resources. Jesus is master. Jews get first offer of the master's bread, but these words tell her that the master's household also has other members in it. Pet puppy dogs also belong to the household. They're not outsiders, they're insiders. And the pets not only belong, but they eat the same food as the children. Might only be scraps, but it's the same food. She's okay with scraps. It's only been scraps of second or third hand gossip that she came to know about Jesus at all. Even with those scraps of information, she has this belief deep down inside that he is Lord. And now she is hearing straight from Jesus' own mouth that there are more than just Jews who have a claim on the food that he offers. And that may explain why her neighbours were able to queue up alongside Jews and get healed and delivered of their devils. And those Jewish leaders who ganged up against him, and those Jewish towns who didn't want to know him, they had first offer of Jesus. They turned him down. So now it's the turn of other people. It's no scraps to tell her this. She's just heard it straight from the Master's mouth. The man is talking to her right now. And to back up what she hears, he has travelled out of Galilee to her region of Tyre. And it's from her own soil that she hears him saying that we Gentile puppy dogs are also fondly loved by him, the Master, and he gladly gives us his power also. Well, at these words she takes up his invitation. He is wooing her and teasing belief out of her. She hears in his words a warm invitation to be part of his household. He put her response into her mouth. She took his bait, and she says straight back to him, "Yes, Lord, but even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." He left a slight opening in the door, and she stepped right inside with no hesitation. She squeezed through that door, and she knew in her heart that there was no more barriers to getting Jesus' help. She believes at this point that he will help her, and she begins to feel empowered within. She is changed from being a helpless foreign beggar to being the owner of a huge and valuable gift. And what Jesus says next takes the wrapper off that gift and reveals what it is and what's it useful for. "Woman, you have great faith. Let it be done as you desire," Jesus says. It is her faith he commends. It's hers, and it's great, and it's been growing, fed by scraps of information about Jesus. And now his own personal words to her, and a joy and a calm assurance within tell her what it is. Faith. Her faith. And what is this great gift useful for? Whatever she requests. No limits, anything. She rises from being a beggar with nothing to being a member of his household with freedom to ask her master anything she likes, anything she can believe him for. She is empowered. She belongs. She's an insider, no longer a foreigner. Her request is plain, and Jesus answers, "The demon has left your daughter." Well, he doesn't need to come to her place. He is Lord in the spirit realm, and what he says goes to demons. That woman ran out of there fast, back home in record speed. She knew without a doubt that her daughter was healed. Sure enough, she got home, and there she was. She welcomed her mum with a big smile and a giant hug. And she tells her all about it, and Mum tells her daughter all about him. And she believes Jesus too, and together they just can't keep this news to themselves. Well, Jesus soon left that region, up to Sidon, back down to Galilee. But the gift of faith that he put in that woman's heart that day never left her.